Good morning, good morning. Welcome to Urban Talks with Anthony and Ted. We're going to have an insightful conversation. For those that are new to the channel, we make mental health conversations and content that's going to be beneficial to your personal development in addition to your well-being. However, in today's conversation, we'll be talking about protecting your peace, how to set healthy emotional boundaries in relationships. I think it's very important for us to take in consideration because we need to identify, set, and maintain emotional boundaries in our professional in addition to our personal relationships, right? So I want to be able to help us recognize that our mental health, fostering, that communication clearly, in addition to fostering healthy connections to maintain in our lives, right? So we're going to be interacting with people, we're going to be dealing with people all the time, and I think it's really important for us to be able to know ourselves, know our needs, know how to, have a balance, know when that line is, we got to put that line for ourselves so we're able to maintain our personal, peace of mind, in addition to being able to, like I said, foster when it's to say no, because we need to be able to have that boundary, right? So stick with me, grow with me, and we're going to be able to learn throughout this video. However, in our introduction, let's really just dive into why emotional boundaries matter. I want us to think about it, for yourself, right? Have you ever felt drained, when you're spending time with somebody, or, guilty in regards to, you saying no to somebody? Emotional boundaries are that invisible line to be able to protect, like I said, our peace, our energy, in addition to our sense of self. Nobody out here knows you more than yourself, and you got to really be able to, like I said, know when to have that reservation. In addition to, like I said, this video, we're going to be able to recognize boundaries when they're being crossed, how to be able to navigate with them when we're, undergoing through this difficulty, but we can get through it with that, confidence and compassion. So, let's stick with me. So in addition to our first segment, we're going to be talking about what are emotional boundaries. And the definition is emotional boundaries separate your emotions and responsibilities from others, right? So you're recognizing yourself, you're recognizing others, and you got to be able to recognize your personal needs before you're able to, like I said, pour and help other people, right? So it's very important to, like I said, take in consideration of our emotional boundaries. Why are they vital, right? So without them, we absorb others' stress, guilt, and other people's expectations, right? So we have to be able to, like I said, draw that line. We have our own things on our own plate. People got their own stuff on their own plate. We got to be able to, like I said, do what we can handle. Next is going to be examples of unhealthy boundaries, right? So we have people pleasing, we have fear of conflict, we have guilt after saying no, right? So everybody's going to be different. There's different situations for everybody, but we got to take in consideration of unhealthy patterns, unhealthy boundaries to be able to navigate through healthy ways where things are going to be more conducive for our peace of mind, right? So I want us to take in consideration for reflective time, for, close your eyes if necessary, but think of a time, recent time where you felt drained. Was your boundaries crossed, or, was it even ever set? Right. So I really want to take in consideration, like life be lifing. I really wanted us to be real with ourselves and think about, like I said, so we're able to navigate through these situations with rationality. But in our next segment, we're going to be talking about the psychology behind boundary struggles, right? So we have, like I said before, is those attachment styles. So people that are anxious or avoidant patterns can impact boundaries. We have fear factors, right? So we have rejection, guilt, abandonment, in addition to or confrontation. We have social conditioning in regards to especially strong in women, caregivers, or empaths. Like I said, we got to take in consideration for those out there that are providing service to other people, always pouring out to other people, whether it's your job, whatever responsibility, whether it's your purpose, whether, you're doing it, right? So that's just these are your emotional needs, right? So I want us to take in consideration that, like I said, it's fine. However, we got to be able to evaluate our own personal needs. So we're making sure that we have a balance. But there is social condition that is tied to this. Also, a quote I want to include is saying no is a complete sentence, right? So you got to be able to, no means no. It's enough said. So just be able to take that in consideration as well. But in our next segment, we're going to be talking about how to set clear emotional boundaries, right? It's very important for us to be able to, like I said, set them, advocate for ourselves. People can't read your mind. You got to be able to, like respectfully, don't get it twisted, but you got to be able to speak, and clearly communicate that, right? So our first key concept we're going to be talking about, get clear on your limits, right? So know your emotional, bandwidth, what your do's and don'ts, right? You really got to think about these things. That's why I always advocate for times of solitude, alone time, really just tapping with yourself. So you get to really just know where you're at and what your limits are, right? So next is going to be use direct communication. You're really going to be assertive. Think about what you're going to say before you just, get into that moment. Really rationalize, really be calm, really be centered and grounded, and really be assertive in regards to like what your needs are. Really be direct, right? But in a respectful way. Next is going to be consistency matters. We got to take in consideration that boundaries are upheld through repetition, right? So people are going to sit there, when you say something, they're going to try to come back around and see if you're going to be the same person that had those 10 toes and you really was standing on business before. So you got to keep, you know what I mean? You got to just keep working at it. You got to be on point. You got to be consistent so that people know that you're serious about, whatever the boundary is, right? So a pro tip is going to be, when you're practicing with I statements, you want to be able to say, I feel, ... whatever the situation is, or when and I need, right? I need space, whatever that may be for the situation. But you need to be able to use I statements because you're claiming yourself, you're claiming how you feel, and rather than just making it kind of like a threatening kind of conversation where it's like you, and it's kind of the person's in defense mode. So you just address that I, don't like, or I need, whatever may be, and use those I statements to be able to help you within the situation because you're really expressing your personal needs, right? Which is good for advocating. Next segment, we're going to be talking about managing guilt, right? So pushback and conflict. We got to understand that people out here are not going to like, the person that you're trying to become in regards to claiming yourself, being more, in control and more, empowered. However, we got to be in taking consideration with us not having that. We're just allowing ourselves to be lost in the sauce and maybe even be manipulated or whatever it be used, right? But we got to be able to, like I said, have a little bit of reservation for ourselves, so we know ourselves. We know what's our do's and don'ts are. We know what we're comfortable with, and we know that this slick stuff is not. I'm not cool with that, right? And you got to be able to confront that in a respectful way, but we gotta, like I said, be able to, take in consideration that there may be some pushback, right? So first concept we're gonna be talking about is normal to feel guilty at first, right? So you may feel uncomfortable at first, but we gotta become comfortable within that practice to be, as we navigate through this, right? So guilty isn't wrong. So I gotta take that in consideration as these feelings are coming. You're just standing up for yourself. You're being the biggest advocate that you can be for yourself. So like I said, it's always important for yourself to know what your needs are, but like I said, take in consideration that you don't got to feel guilty about speaking up for yourself, right? Next is going to be pushback is feedback, right? So people who can benefit from your, boundaries may resist, right? So people out there that liked you when you were kind of more naive or more, nonchalant, you wasn't really doing nothing, you really wasn't saying nothing, really wasn't just talking back, whatever it may be. They may be the ones that really try to test you, right? But at the same time, too, you got to do what's necessary for yourself, right? You got to make sure that your needs are being met, so that you have a good peace of mind. Your mental health is not going to be disturbed, and that you're in a conducive state of mind. Next is going to be you can be kind and firm, right? At the same time, boundaries don't have to be cruel. They don't have to be, making you feel inadequate, but with clarity. And like I said, with being respectful, these things could definitely be met, right? So I really want us to take that in consideration. In addition to that, I really want us to take into consideration in regards to a mind shift, right? So you are not responsible for others' reactions or other people's emotions. You are responsible for communicating your needs with respect, like I said. So I want you to take that in consideration. Be empathetic, be kind, you know what I mean? Imagine being in their shoes and how they may feel, whatever, although that you're not responsible for their emotions. But overall, let's be kind, let's be respectful, and let's, speak on our behalf in regards to our needs. Next segment, we're going to be talking about boundaries in different relationships, right? We got to take into consideration different aspects of our lives, right? We have the work life that we go to, so we got to be professional. We have relationships. We have people in our family. We got to, we got to be recorded. We got to, we have to know how to communicate. We got to know how to talk, right? But once again, we got to have different relationships in regards to boundary setting, right? So we have romantic, for instance, right? So maintaining your identity, emotional space, and your autonomy, like your sense of self. Next is going to be friendships, right? So say no to emotional dumping or that codependency when someone's making you feel as if that, you got to do what they got to say, or you making them rely on you or whatever it may be, right? So for instance, if someone's telling you that, you got a car, you pick me up, just pick me up, you got a car, you can do that, and you're like, what, who are you talking to? Like, nah, first I got a car, I respect that, that's me, but I need some gas money or some type of contribution, or first of all, the fact that you even had to come out of mouth to talk to me in that manner, I'm not doing that, and you could just shut it down. So there's going to be different situations, different way that people are trying to, tell you what to do, and it's not, and you can really be able to take control on that and recognizing by that emotional dumping, right? So that's a situation I want to provide for, friends. But however, what about work life, right? So avoid burnout by separating personal worth from performance, right? So you got to recognize, when enough's enough, when someone's giving you too much, and just, how your value is not derived from your job, right? You are the amazing without the job, and what the job is just the extra, right? So I really want to take in consideration, don't lose yourself, don't get lost in the sauce about, your worth and performance. Sometimes, you'll be on 10, sometimes you'll be on 3, like there's just seasons or there's different situations or health, etc. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's like when it comes to our personal development, when it comes to our health, when it comes to our mindfulness, we have to spend time and be consistent with ourselves so everything's balanced out, right? And this is why Thriving Talks is here for you, you heard? But I really want us to take in consideration in regards to reflective exercise, right? So list 3 people in your life, what boundaries you might need to strengthen with each person for instance, right? That's in your circumference, that's in your circle. So I really want to take in consideration in regards, like I said, we talked about romantic, friendships, work, right? We got to be able to set those boundaries proactively. In regards to wrapping this video up, really want to take in consideration that protecting your peace is a superpower, right? We got to understand that this is our life, you know what I mean? And to have a good life, we really got to be able to make sure that our needs are getting met, right? We don't want to be lost in the sauce. We don't want to be able to, have our walls being blown down as if this is the big bad wolf, whatever. We have to be courageous. We have to really advocate. Really got to be able to just, so, you know what I mean? Set those boundaries, you heard? Be more authentic, be more respectful, and just, and in these fulfilling relationships, we're able to, have better, meaningful interactions. But like I said, we got to be able to practice to be able to become comfortable. So, however, if you found this video beneficial, give it a thumbs up, share if possible, and I'll see you on the next one. Take it easy.